Our work at Leaders Quest is all about leadership and what it means to really recognise how interconnected we all are. We work with people from all continents, from all sectors, from all kinds of economic backgrounds, include leaders from multinational companies, entrepreneurs, people from financial services, people from government, people from academia, and also leaders from some of the poorest communities in the world. It's very important to us that we work with different ends of the spectrum and that we think of ourselves as a bridge. So we've made a deliberate choice to work with some of the most powerful and influential people and organisations in the world, and also with people who don't have formal power, with some of the people with least voice, least access to really driving change. And that's a very deliberate choice because we think that many of the issues that we all face, many of the opportunities that we have, actually need engagement. One of the things that we continually learn is that many of the challenges, for example, that a chief executive may be facing in his life or her life are very similar to the challenges, the personal resourcefulness that's needed in a leader working in a grassroots community somewhere in the world. At our heart, we're really all about relationships and interconnection. Whoever we are, wherever we are, whatever kinds of backgrounds we come from. And sometimes that's uncomfortable because the gaps are very large and the differences are big and the differences of opinion and points of view are very significant. But being a bridge across those and enabling people to come together and really have dialogue and truly meet and truly experience one another's priorities, I think is something valuable and worthwhile. Open quests are for groups of individuals who all come from different kinds of organisations and they come together for the quest experience. And we also do a lot of tailored programmes for companies and different organisations who want us to help them think about their role in the world, their future, mission, vision, and some of their values. So we design quests so that in the course of a few days we can look at major issues that are both local and often globally relevant, different themes, different concerns, different opportunities in the world. And we'll often think about spending part of the week in one part of a country and the other part in a contrasting place. We split our time between major cities and also spending time out in rural areas in many of our programs. To give you a flavour of a typical quest day, in China we might start our morning in a huge factory making electronic goods for a global market. We might have lunch with a professor of geopolitics and gain an insight into how the Chinese see the world and see their role in it. And then we might spend the afternoon with a group of migrant workers who've migrated halfway across the country to work in factories, to work in restaurants, to work on building sites, and really think about the impact of industrialisation and the kind of changes taking place in people's lives. And then we might spend the evening with a group of dancers or people from theatre or people from film and getting an insight into the culture of the country. In India, we might spend a day in technology parks with innovators, with people designing products for the future. And then the following day, we might be in slum communities with women's groups, with people working on issues like domestic violence, access to water, access to electricity, livelihoods, children's education, and so forth. In Brazil, we might start our day in a very tough favela with a youth group, and we might end the day with entrepreneurs working on alternative energy, alternative fuels, or in the field of sustainability. So we're always thinking about the contrasts in life and the complexity and interconnectedness of the world that we're part of. And what we try to do with a quest is to create a safe space where we and all the people with us can really push our boundaries and explore the world, think about macro issues, also think about micro issues by meeting with different kinds of organisations and different kinds of companies, and also think about ourselves and our own role in the world. So in many ways a quest is about personal growth and personal development, but doing that in the context that is global and macro. So the other half of our work is what we call fellowships. And a fellowship is a program for grassroots leaders. We seek out people, often who've had very little formal education, but who one way or another are demonstrating themselves to be leaders in their communities. There's a tough selection process to be chosen for the fellowship program, and it's then made up of a series of modules of learning, supplemented with mentorship and experience out in the field where people are working on specific projects. In the last 3 years, we've had around 600 people through the fellowship program, most of those in India and China, but now increasingly also in South Africa and Brazil. And then in the next 3 years, we anticipate having 2,000 people through our fellowship program. We've got a lot of wonderful outcomes in terms of the impact that those individuals are having, often across thousands of people in their local communities. We focus a lot on how we're connected, both in terms of solutions and opportunities and potential, and also in terms of problems. So for example, we might go out and spend time with rag pickers, garbage pickers, working in Sao Paulo or working in Mumbai or working in Delhi, understand their lives, understand how they make a living, understand how they contribute to the economy, their children, their aspirations for the future, and at the same time think about how am I part of this ecosystem? How am I also contributing to the garbage that these people are collecting and recycling? People often ask us, how do we have impact? My experience is that the kinds of individuals that we spend time with really do care about the contribution that they make. You know, it's part of human nature to want to make a difference in some way. We'd rather as human beings be good than not, and that's a core driver, and I think we give people the chance to really tap into that and to spend some time thinking about that. We see a lot of impact, for example, in companies as we help businesses think about their purpose, as we help them think about mission, as we help them think about how they engage with society, how they engage with communities, how they minimize the negative impact that they have, for example, on the environment, and how they really optimize the positive impact that they have on people and on communities. We often find also with businesses that we help them think about strategies in country, how to build a very successful business in Asia or in Latin America or in Africa or in Europe, how to make the kinds of changes that they may need to think about culturally to really adapt and to really be global in mindset. So I think we've been able to have a lot of impact across sectors and with NGOs and in civil society. We've helped a lot of community-based organizations and NGOs grow. We've helped them think about how they develop people. We've helped them think about how they engage with the world differently, how they engage, for example, with business. We've forged many collaborations between different kinds of organizations, and we've contributed to growing those relationships in a meaningful way, helping people launch new projects, for example, helping people launch in different parts of the world in new countries. And we have a big impact, I think, at the individual level. So we have many people who come with us on Quest who are thinking about their own purpose. Sometimes they're thinking about their leadership in their current role. Sometimes they're thinking about future choices. Sometimes they're thinking about who they are as a family member, as a spouse, as a parent, as a child, and how they really engage effectively in the systems that they're part of. Companies come to us to ask us to do a tailored quest with them for all kinds of different reasons. And sometimes it's for very kind of straightforward business reasons, strategic reasons, understanding the world. And sometimes it's because they're thinking about purpose and they're thinking about mission, they're thinking about values. One of the things that I think that we're very good at helping people get to grips with is how are society's expectations of business changing? What is the role of business in today's world, in the 21st century? I think that there's a big shift currently underway in terms of what's required of business to really be legitimate actors in the world. And you know, you can look at that and say that's very tough and very demanding, or you can look at it and say it's a real opportunity. I think in the 21st century, people are looking at companies and saying, you're very important actors. You have a huge influence, you can have a huge bearing upon the future. And in that sense, I think leadership is very challenging, and it requires people to dig deep in terms of their own personal values and think about what they stand for and how they act that out in their own organizations. So I think we're good at helping companies think beyond their own shareholders, beyond their stakeholders, into this kind of wider role in society and this wider role in communities. And it can be radical, but also it's often small changes that they can make that will really improve the impact that they have. And I think that one of the things we see very frequently is that when a company chooses to think about those kind of things, they're building an entity that people really want to be a part of, that people, their own staff, feel proud of being associated with, feel deeply motivated about being a part of. And that's something that I think Quests are really, really effective at helping people understand. So we're often asked, why are people willing to meet you on a quest? How come these companies are willing to open up and share with you and spend time with you? How come these communities and villages and people living in slums and townships are willing to welcome you in? And the answer is actually very simple. People want to meet because they do care about engaging. I think that the mission that we have is something that people all around the world, in my experience, find to be inspiring. And in different ways they want to contribute to that. So when you recognize that this is really about engaging, it's about learning, it's about a mutual exchange. It's not just about asking questions and then leaving. It's actually about sharing. So the visitors share as well as the people that are hosting us. And in that sense, I think we do create rewarding experiences, and we build very lasting relationships with people. We care very much about the hosts. We care very much about how do we leave something positive behind and indeed stay connected in a way that is useful to people. And the answers are varied. Sometimes it's because people really want to share their story. It's amazing how often it's important that they get the chance to share with their voice and to tell something in their own words to people who've traveled halfway across the globe in many cases to meet with them. Sometimes it's because people are really proud of what they have to share. They want an exchange. I also think that our central mission is something that resonates for people, and we found that wherever we go. That actually the idea that we need to engage, we need to meet, we need to exchange, that we're creating something that's a mutual learning experience. It's not just about one group of people coming and asking lots of questions and then leaving. It's much more about sharing wisdom, about sharing insight, about sharing experience. And we put a lot of work and effort into building lasting relationships and making sure that the kinds of people that we meet really benefit from that and in different ways feel connected and feel part of our global community going forward. I really started this work because I wanted to do something that was about recognizing that we're very much part of the same whole. And I think that when you push yourself to have experiences that really bring that to life with all the senses, the implications are very significant. They're inspiring, they're exciting, they're sometimes daunting, as you really recognize the ways in which we all interact. And I guess the implications, first and foremost, are very personal. It's about who am I in the world, who am I in my life, how do I choose to show up, how do I choose to contribute. So I think of this work as both being about the connections that exist between people, but also about the disconnects, about the gaps, about the differences that exist, for example, between business and civil society, between government and NGOs, between people within organizations, and indeed the gaps that exist within us as people. So I find myself thinking about how do I push beyond my own self-interest? How do I think about what is shared interest? How do I think about the common future that we need to shape and contribute to?